Out there is the indie space exploration roguelite developed by mi-clos Studio that was released in early 2014 for mobile and Android devices. The game had some pretty decent success on mobile devices and is now coming to Steam and PC, coming to PC with its Omega Edition, which features better art, new content, and just a bunch more stuff in general. The game pins you as an astronaut who has been thrown out into space after failing a mission to Jupiter. You wake up from your cryosleep in the middle of the universe somewhere. The gameplay consists of traveling between star systems and managing the resources that fuel your ship, give you oxygen, and keep the ship's hull intact. Every time you fly to a system, you'll be presented with a number of planets or anomalies on the system. So those could be like a garden planet, a rocky planet, a gas giant, a supply station, or another ship. The main gameplay consists of going into these systems, flying to these planets, and siphoning off the resources that you need for your ship to progress further. In that sense, it's a pretty simple management game, but it's also kind of brutal because you have to really pay attention and do the maths when you're traveling around. Like each system that you go to, you need to make sure that on that system you get enough resources to get to the next one. And in the early stages of the game, you can only make one or two mistakes on your jumps before the game just completely bites your head off. That being said, after a good couple hours in the game, you'll be able to get through the early stages pretty well and almost always get yourself to a decent situation where you've got some upgrades or found a new ship that allows you to do some more adventurous space exploration. Each time you go to a new system, the game presents you with a text adventure. It's usually only one or two screens of text, but it gives you a nice little situation that, because of the vastness of space, could be absolutely anything. From like giant space jellyfish to planets made of sugar to ice cream men, actually. In my opinion, the text adventures is where the game really shines. They bring some variety and really spice up what would otherwise be a pretty dull management game. Each time you go to a new system, you need to be prepared for anything. You need to know that you've got enough fuel to escape from an enemy, or that you've got the hull integrity to survive a damage from an asteroid field. And it brings more complexity to the game as you get better at it. That being said, they are on occasion an absolute pain in the arse when they just completely screw you. In general, when you're playing out there, it's just kind of a nice time. You're flying around the place, doing a little bit of resource management, looking at some really nice art in space, checking out all these cool things that they've designed, and having a little giggle at some of the wacky stuff they can come up with on the text adventures. But then after a few runs, where you'll only last for about 12 systems or so, you kind of get a bit antsy. You want a bit more from the game. You feel like you need to be progressing further, and you get interested in actually seeing what's going to be at the end of it, right? And that's where the game gets really kind of a pain in the ass, because it doesn't reward you too much for the knowledge that you gain when you play it. It was after a couple hours without there that I really started to find flaws with the game. I thought that after this amount of time I'd learnt the systems, that I knew how some of it worked, but I found myself constantly being just kicked by the game when I thought I knew something, and then it was like, nope, that was wrong, that's not actually how this works at all. And it doesn't seem to reward you enough for learning things and for putting the time in to learn the game, which is a real pain in the ass when you're playing something that's meant to be a roguelike, right? So like every time you jump into the game, you're like, oh, I'll start a run. And you'll be like, oh, I know how to do the beginning of this game. I've done it countless times. I know how to manage these resources. And so you go in and you do it, and then it just kicks you. It just kicks you right in the face. I think this comes from the lack of complexity in some of the systems. I feel as though it doesn't reward me enough as a player. After putting 10 hours into the game, the first half an hour, I don't think I'm much more likely to do well in that than I am when I first started playing, because everything is so random that all the stuff you learn is still very much just reliant upon the game giving you some nice RNG. All in all, the game is really fun. The first couple hours you'll have really satisfying and really nice, because you get to look at all the pretty art, and the text adventures are really interesting to read, and it's nice discovering the universe that they've made. Then, as you get to the later stages, from about the 10 to 20 hour mark, you'll probably, if you're as bad at the game as I am, just have started to get to the points where you can finish some of the storylines. And when you get there, when you get a good ship and you're flying around and you're like, oh, I'm so close to, you can see the system with the finish line, and you're like, oh, let's go. And you finally get some technology that lets you walk through a black hole, and you come out and you jump to the system and you meet the flipping it is a really satisfying ending. And the game builds up the tension like that. Like, you really want to get there, and you know that the game wants to kick you down, but you're fighting it, and it's great. The challenge of the game feels really great in that later stage. It's just the early parts that fall down. So all in all, I think Out There is a great game. It's not the kind of game that I would sit down with for 4 hours at a time and sink into. It's more the kind of thing I'll play casually when I watch a stream. Or like, instead of Hearthstone, basically, is what it's become for me. I think Out There's a great game. It's a bunch of fun, and at the price point that it's coming out at, I'm definitely recommend checking it out. With all that being said, I'm going to give the game a 7. It was sitting on a 6 for a long period of time, but when I actually started to finish it, when I started to get some of the endings, I was like, no, this is really satisfying and rewarding, and I feel like it's justified the fun scale for me. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please leave some comments. I will chat about the game happily in there with you. If you completely disagree with my opinions, then that's fine. They're opinions. I'm probably stupid anyway. Thanks for watching, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.